opportunity to be here and do our kangaroo laughter. I just thought I would start by introducing some of the folks who have come all the way from Australia to be with you here today in support of this amazing conference. Can you give them a round of applause, please? The lady here is Khedlly. She is a journalist and a blogger. Go to her website, thehappydemic.com.au. Or if you forget, just go up and ask her. She writes amazing and very professional blogs on laughter and laughter yoga. So if you want some reference sites that's easy to understand, please go to her website. Po is one of our laughter leaders, one of the social laughter leaders that Dr. Kay was talking about on the Sunshine Coast. Po, welcome. Thank you for coming along. Sharon is an ex-retired nurse. If you want to hear one of the great stories of recovery from laughter, just go up and speak to Sharon. And she is doing some amazing work with social prescription with doctors' clinics, with the local council. So there is an alliance that she's formed in South Australia. So that's fantastic. And the lovely young lady on the end is her daughter, who's flown in from the UK to be with her as well. And finally, we have Annie Harvey. Annie is a keynote speaker of note throughout Australia, and she's created a thing called the Giggle Game. I personally believe that every laughter yoga person should have the Giggle Game, and she's in the process of actually creating another Giggle Game for corporates and for businesses. So the one that she has is for small children, the one that she's developing is for businesses, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So once again, thank you very much for your support. You can't do these things alone, and to have wonderful people like this assisting in what we're doing in Laughter Yoga Australia is a privilege. Thank you. Oh, they're so shy. They're so shy. As I think was already mentioned, I've been owning and operating my own businesses successfully for more than 50 years now, and I'm very proud of that. So today, I'm just going to give you some insights how I've done it over such a long period of time, where the world has changed so dramatically and we've had so many major events, and yet we've still been able to come out the other side with success. So my first business started at the age of 12 years old. I was about this high with blonde hair, that's gone. And what used to happen was we lived beside a dog racing track. And all of a sudden, dog racing, greyhound racing became so popular that the car park would become full, and the car park attendant would close the gates and tell the people, go away. So what did people do? When they were told to go away, they would find the next place to park, and we lived right beside the greyhound track. Now, back in those days when I was 12, people didn't go out a lot of the night time. They used to stay at home and didn't go out. So people going to the dog racing, mainly gamblers, would think, well, it's okay to park across their drive because they're not going to go out, so we'll just park across their drive. My dad used to sell insurance, personal insurance, life insurance, and he used to do his work of a night time. He used to go to the husbands and the wives of the night time because that's when they were at home, and he used to do his business of a night time. So sometimes he'd go out and there'd be a car across the drive. Or sometimes he'd come home and there would be a car across the drive. My dad was in the Second World War, and according to my mum, came back a changed man. He was very angry and he owned a gun. So what he would do to solve the problem is go out and wait for the person to come back with the car, bring out his gun, and said, don't park across my driveway. Not a great, you can laugh if you like, not a great solution. All of a sudden the police turned up and they said, you can't do that. He said, well, you tell them to stop parking across my driveway. And they said, we've got other things to do. Can't you find another solution? And my dad looked down at me, and I looked up at him, and he said, you, stand out here, and if anyone tries to park across our driveway, tell them to go away, or your dad will come out with a gun. Okay. And I said, and why do I want to do that? He said, I'll give you money. Oh, you can already see where this is going. I said, how much money? He said, this much money. Now, this much money was just a single coin, but back when I was 12, it was worth a fortune. It was worth a fortune, but it was really important for Dad to get in and out to do the business, otherwise we don't get money. So he gave me this amount of money, and I would stand out there from 6 o'clock until 12 o'clock at night, and if anyone came to park across the driveway, I'd say, no, you can't park across the driveway. I said, my dad's got a gun and he's given me money to make sure that you don't. I go, okay. Except one night, this punter, this gambler, was desperate to get to the races. He said, I'm running late, I've got to get to this race, I've got to put this much money, I'm number 2 in the 3rd race. He said, I've got to get there, I've got to get there. I said, well, you can't park here, you've got to park way down the road. He said, what if I park on your lawn? As long as you don't park across the drive, that's okay. All right, I'll park on the lawn. And I said, and how much are you going to give me? He said, I'll give you a coin. I said, that's the same coin that my dad gave me, that's cool. So all of a sudden, I had the coin and I had a car parked there. My dad come home and he said, why is there a car parked there? I said, because he gave me money. And I said, he's not parked across the drive. And Dad sort of scratched his head and he goes, okay. He said, give me my money back. I said, no, I've got your money as well. And he said, well, why don't you make a business out of this? Why don't you get people to park on your lawn? We had a big double block. The front lawn would have been nearly as big as this auditorium here. It was a huge front lawn. He said, why don't you get people to park on the front lawn and charge them for money? I said, why would I do that? He said, because you have yourself a business opportunity. So that's where my business opportunity started at the age of 12.
Wow.
Providing a service for which I asked for money, and I had no guilt in doing it because I was standing out there in the bitter cold, the heat, night after night, from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Business was booming, it was going absolutely fantastic, and I said to Dad, I said, this is going great. He said, would you like it to be better? I said, yes, I would. I said, what do I have to do? He said, write a plan. I said, what sort of plan? He said, just a diagram. Write a big diagram and find out where you can put all the cars and where they can all go and where they can fit to maximise the opportunity. I said, that's a great idea. So I wrote a plan, and then I went into shopping centres and started to measure cars with a tape measure to find out how big the cars were and where they could fit. I became an expert on all the cars that were out there, and I devised a plan. Then one day, a journalist, a reporter came along from the local newspaper and said, oh, you're that young 12-year-old with blonde hair that's developed this successful business as a car park attendant. I said, well, yes, I am. He said, I'd love to do a story on you. I said, that's great, free publicity. And so he asked me some questions, and the next week I was on the front page of our local newspaper. And the column went along the lines of, here's a story about a successful business person who was only 12 years old. His name is Merv, and he's created this car parking business on the front lawns of his house, etc., etc., etc. It finished up on the bottom, and it said in the closing statement, he'll probably end up a business tycoon. Wow. What? So I went back to my dad, I said, Dad, what's a tycoon? He said, a millionaire.
Oh, wow.
I went, oh. Well, the paper says that I'm going to be a millionaire. And he said, well, you better get working then. I said, great. I said, when will I be a millionaire, Dad? He said, well, life begins at 40.
Oh, God.
I said, okay. Now, that was true until I reached 40, and then life begins at 50. Then when I got to 50, life begins at 60. I think you can get the pattern, all right? So at this current stage, my life begins at 70. So I determined that from the age of 12 to 40, 28 years, I had to make and save $1 million. I turned the business into a mathematical equation, and friends, that's exactly what business is. It's a mathematical equation. When doctors are administering medicines, it's a mathematical equation. 120 over 80, take these pills 3 times a day, come back and see me in 30 days. It's all a mathematical equation. So I started to work really hard. So I not just had a plan, but I had a vision. That I would wake up on my 40th birthday and I would have $1 million in the bank. And that drove me like you wouldn't believe. I had a passion about money. And every time I got the money, I would count the money and I'd put it into blocks like the poker people playing with their chips, and I'd see the mountains of money growing, and I was getting so excited about money. And it was all about the money. Anyway, it was about 3 years later, I was woken up in the middle of the night, and my mum said, pack your bags, get your little sister, get in the car, we're going. I said, going where? She said, anywhere but here. And not only was Dad selling life insurance, he was actually having sex with a lot of the people he was selling the life insurance to, which of course you're not allowed to do. So Mum got us out of there. It was a very violent relationship, and she got divorced, which was something which was really harrowing back in those days and just not common at all. So I was really quite disturbed because we had no home, we had no money. More importantly, I had no business. I go, hang on, what happened to my business? All of my dreams, all of my vision, my plans, what happened to them? And Mum said, well, you better get yourself another business. Okay. So we went to a rental refuge house, and they just said, you can stay here until you find other accommodation as long as you keep the gardens nice and tidy. So Mum said, get out and mow the lawns. So I went out and started mowing the lawns, and a neighbour walked past and said, oh, I wish you could come and mow my lawns. I said, for how much? I had another business. I was the lawn mowing kid. And I just went and knocked on every door in the neighbourhood. And I said, do you want your lawns mowed for this amount of money? And they all said yes. So that was a great learning. Get out there and find your customers. Dr. Kay talked about it before. The opportunities are out there. Get out and knock on doors and find these opportunities. So one business led to another, to another, to another, to another, until I reached the age of 40. I had my 40th birthday. I had friends and family around, and I was presented with 2 documents in a framed binder. The first one was the clipping out of the newspaper that said this person would be a business tycoon. And the second one was a bank statement that said I had $1 million cash in the bank. And I went, yes, I made it. Fantastic. I was so excited, so proud of myself that I worked so hard, regardless of all of the things that had happened along the way, but I achieved that goal. I was so proud. Then someone said, so what are you going to do now? You're only 40, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to double it in 5 years. Now, that's what happens when people have a passion that gets out of control and it becomes an obsession. I have become obsessed with making money that I didn't need, but nothing was going to stop me. Then all of a sudden, along came a great gift, the Y2K. Does everyone remember the Y2K, where we went from one century to another? And we all needed IT, and I had a business in IT at the time, and I was making so much money. It was unbelievable. It was just great to be in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. So come the age of 45, I'd achieved my second goal. I doubled my wealth in 5 years that had taken 28 years to achieve. And once again I went, yes, this is fantastic, this is great. And looked down and found out that I was hemorrhaging. Ooh, that wasn't in the plan. So we rushed me to hospital, and they said, we don't know what you've been doing, but you are very, very sick. All of your internal systems have shut down, your immune system, your blood, your bone marrow. You're critically ill and there's nothing we can do about it. I said, so what do you recommend I do? He said, go home and get your affairs in order. I'm a business person at heart. I have been since the age of 12. You've got blood in your veins, I've got business in my veins. So I went home and organised my funeral, finances, family and friends, and then sat down and started to laugh uncontrollably. My wife said, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I said, I can't stop laughing. She goes, why? I said, I don't know, I'm just laughing. Fast forward to 2019, I was invited onto a TV show called Medicine or Myth. It was a national TV show in Australia. And it was a panel of health experts who were interviewing people like myself who had had a serious illness, or working with people with serious illnesses who had found different ways to help them, and mine was, of course, laughter. One of the people on that show was one of our most famous brain surgeons, neurosurgeons, Dr. Charlie Teo. He was a pioneer in the area of brain surgery and subsequently got himself into a lot of trouble and has now been deregistered. But at the time, He was an absolute authority and a very big media personality. And he said, "May I diagnose you 17 years afterwards on national TV?" I said, "Go right ahead." He said, "I would suspect because of your illness and the symptoms that you had, you were hemorrhaging into your brain, into the centre of your hypothalamus and having many strokes, because I've found that when people do that, they will start to laugh uncontrollably, and it's called pathological laughter." I said, "Where were you 17 years ago?" I really could have used that information because nobody knew why I was laughing. So the point of that story is I didn't go looking for laughter to help me heal, it found me. 8 years later, totally cured, their words, not mine. And I walked out of there and vowed that I would never ever go back again. So on the way out, I called my business mentor and said, "What do you think I should do?" And he said, "You're financially independent, you can do what you want." I said, "There's something about this laughter thing." I said, "Maybe I could pursue that. Maybe I could make a business out of laughter." And he laughed. Well, that's a good start, at least I've got someone laughing. So that was my decree back in February 2003 up until today. I thought, I'm going to make a business out of laughter because I can make a business out of anything. So that's always been my focus. I have been running a social laughter club for the last 12, 13, 14, 15 years. I don't know, it gets very confusing. So I had that social side of things, but then I had a commercial mind. Does that make sense? All right, so it's okay to be one person and have two focuses, the social heart with the three things that we do and the commercial mind of what we do as well. And I've been doing it up until now. Anyone who was here at the dinner last night would know that I'm big on research as well too. I thought that was absolutely critically important to have the data, the information, the numbers, because business people like me want the evidence. Not necessarily medical evidence, but they want the numbers that says, if I give you this money, how am I going to get that money back? How's it going to happen? So that was what I determined that I would do. So what I've done for this very short time that I have with you, I put together 10 things that have worked well for me that might work well for you. If you want to make notes, that's great. I'm sure you'll be able to get a video of this, or I can send you the 10 points. But I just want to go through the 10 points that have worked very, very well for me and helped me be successful for the last 50-something years. And who knows, they may work well for you. So as Dr. K quite correctly said, you know, if you're offered money, take the money. All right, so there is a commercial side of this where people have money to invest in us. It's just a matter of how we get it. First one, number one, be a business person. Stop being a laughter person. All right, because when you become a business person, you start to think like a business person, you start to act like a business person, you start to talk like a business person. So when you meet another business person, guess what? We click. The relationship is really, really strong because I see myself as a business person who is providing a laughter service. Why does Dr. Kataria call himself a doctor? Because he trained to be one and it serves him. And fortunately it serves us as well. To have a doctor in charge of this organisation is really, really important for us. I believe, Doctor, I saw a post that you wrote the other day, went along the lines of, I don't believe the organisation would have grown as big as it has if I had not been a doctor. I believe I saw you write that the other day, and I agree. So what we need to do is put on our business hat and become a business person, and that's a change. Right, so you've all been given this hat. Thank you to the organisers once again for these little hats. And here is my laughter hat. Smile on the front. Now that's my laughter hat. What I need to do is take that off and put on my business hat. I'm playing with your minds here. I'm playing with your minds. None of this is real. I'm playing with your minds. So the best way I've found for any of my clients to understand what we're doing is to link a laughter exercise to a thing. All right, so everybody smile. Breathe in. Get ready to take off your laughter hat. You got your business hat. So whenever I go to see a client, I go, what hat do I have on? Do I have on my granddad hat, my poppy hat? No, I've got to take my grandfather hat off because that's not going to work for the business, and I put on my business hat. That's the first one. Here's the second one, and this may be challenging for some of you. Love money. Love money. Now, people starting to cringe and go, I love money. I love money. But I don't love money like I used to when it was obsession for what it can give me. I love for what it can do for me and do for others. Does that make sense? All right, so love money. And the more money you get, the more good that you can do for others. So just recently, I happened to get an inheritance from a family member who passed away, so I had more money than I really needed. So I went to my 3 children, who all have 2 children, so I've been blessed with 6 grandchildren. And I said to them, I said, write out from the age now until they graduate from university and tell me how much that's going to cost. They sat down and said, why? I said, no question, just write it out. So they sat down, they worked out, we've got uniforms, we've got books, we've got computers that we've got to buy, we've got school excursions, we've got this and we've got fees and this. And then when you get to secondary school, if you go to a private school, it's more than, and we've got this. And then if you're going to be a doctor like Dr. Katari, it's going to be this and this and this. And they all came back and they said collectively for the 6 kids, it's going to be this much money. And I gave it to them in cash. Why? What better investment than to invest in someone's education for the rest of their life? We went to the cancer centre this morning. What was the number one issue that they were facing that really disturbed them? Because anyone? They didn't have enough money. People were not getting the necessary treatment because they didn't have enough money. I said, well, if you love money like I did, maybe you could find it somewhere and maybe that would change your whole organisation. You see, businesses, even if it's a cancer support group, still needs money to survive. But to thrive, they need more money to provide the services that the people with cancer cannot supply. So I reached into my wallet, and on the way out, I just gave her all the money in my wallet. Wow. And she said, oh, you don't have to pay for lunch. I said, I didn't, I just saved someone's life. That's good use of money. Put your hands together. Put your little finger together. Put your thumb together. Smile. Breathe in. And go. I love money. I love money, and I love even more putting it away, especially if it's saving lives. Third tip, business is a competition. Business is a competition. You've got to love winning. You've got to love winning. And guess what the competition is? To get the money off the business person. Does anyone say, do you have a note in your wallet? Do you have any money in your wallet? I just wanted to show any sample. You, sir, will make a terrible business person. He didn't resist. He just gave it to me. Guess what? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I have to go to him and say, please, can I have some money? And he'll hold the money out and he'll go, why? Why? What are you going to do for me and my business and my organisation? I could do this. And he goes, that sounds rather good. Is there anything else that you could actually do? So you've got to be really good about the conversation of money. All right? And if you have got your business hat on, it's really, really easy to focus on the money. Thank you. I'll give that to the breast cancer centre later on. That'll be great. So it's a competition and you've got to love winning. Because guess what? When you are going to an organisation, there's one person that gets the money and everybody else doesn't. Does that make sense? All right, so there might be 10 people in there vying for the money. It's called competition. And you have to win, you have to be competitive, and you have to be really, really good at winning. Smile. Breathe in. Put up L for loser. Put up the other one. Join them together. Winner. Smile, breathe in. Winner, winner. You've got to have that competitive edge, and we've got to be winners. So I don't go into any business meeting with a client without my business hat on that says winner. I'm in there to win. Because otherwise the client doesn't say, oh, you came second, here's half the money. No, second place gets nothing. Fourth one, value the product. And the product is laughter. How valuable is laughter? I will go down to the park and we'll have a bit of a laugh. That was nice. That was good. We'll go down the park and we'll have a bit of a laugh and we'll boost our immune system. That's pretty good. And all of a sudden the benefits, and the benefits. When I was doing the kidney dialysis research study with Professor Paul Bennett, long time ago now, we're in the ward, we'd just done the work. I was sweating like I am now. I like to work hard. And all of a sudden, Professor Paul came up and just said to me, I'd just like to share with you that one of the patients has been taken off suicide watch. I said, why? He said, because of the laughter. He said, all of a sudden, they don't want to be suicidal. I said, wow. And he gave me an elbow. He said, you realise you're saving lives, don't you? And it was that time, friends, that the light bulb went off. I go, oh my goodness, this stuff saves lives. I think Dr. Kay mentioned it this morning at the Breast Cancer Centre. How much money would you give someone if it was going to save your life? Or how much would you give someone if it was just a little bit of a giggle? All right, so imagine that you're out there saving lives. What is the value of that to an individual and to the world? It's priceless. Smile. Breathe in. We put this much value on laughter. I think Dr. Kay had to train for 6 to 10 years to save lives as a doctor. We can do it as laughter yogis. It's a real privilege that we have. Point number 5, value yourself. Value yourself. We underestimate how good we are, and how unique we are. So people often value you with your story. I reiterate, go and talk to Sharon about her amazing story of recovery. That is worth a fortune for her and a fortune for other people who are looking for a thing called hope if they take on this laughter stuff. All right, so think clearly about who you are and what it is that you have to offer, and stop undervaluing yourself. We are really quite gifted people, and in a gifted community that has so much to offer as a community, that our value can be so much more than if we're just out there doing it by ourselves. Value yourself. Smile. Breathe in. Put your thumbs up and say with me, who's awesome? Who's awesome? Smile. Breathe in. Put your fingers up. And say, who's awesome? Who's awesome? Point number 6. I'm right on time, I believe. I had my scouts over there going, don't you go 1 minute over. I said, I'm ex-military, I never go 1 minute over, it's all okay. Point number 6, be different. Be different. We have something that's different, but you need to be different as well. You need to bring your own key elements to it. How can you do that? Always be curious and never stop learning. I came to this conference to learn something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that in the room there would be something. And it sprang up. Second speaker yesterday, Dr. Sivakumar, psychiatrist of note, said 70% of all the happy drugs are created by your gut. It's triggered by the brain, but it's all created by the gut. Then he said, he answered a question that I've been asking for maybe 10 years, how do you measure mental health? He goes, change. I go, oh doctor, that is so easy. Change, positive change in their emotions, in their environment, in the way that they're living, their lifestyle choices. So I got my moment of inspiration first thing yesterday morning. Some of you, other people, may be inspired at some stage. The word inspire means breathe in. We inspire, we expire. We inspire, we expire. This is what laughter is. It's a breathing exercise. Smile. Breathe in. You're about to be inspired. Get your finger up and go. If you have that moment throughout the conference, I encourage you to stand up and go, The speaker will be delighted. The speaker will be delighted. Number 7, and Dr. K talked about this a little before, have a vision. All right, so my vision was, at the age of 40, I'd have $1 million. That was my vision. What's your vision? And if you're wondering what it is, it's your purpose. What is your purpose? So we're doing this laughter stuff, it's fun, but what is your purpose? If you can document your vision into the future, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, as Dr. K has, it just changes everything that you do and the way that you behave. And having a vision keeps you on track, because that vision, nothing's going to get in the way, regardless of personal circumstances or COVID or anything like that. We're going to keep marching on. COVID came along and smashed my business. I'm going, thanks COVID, you just gave me the opportunity to recreate myself, because my vision has never changed. Have a vision for 5, 10, 15 years. Wake up at that time and answer 4 questions. What am I doing? Who am I doing it to? Where am I doing it? And why? My vision when I started with laughter, it was a bit premature, was to be standing at conferences and talking to people about laughter. Never lose sight of your vision. Breathe in. Get your vision goggles on. And set your vision. Find it. Go. We do the vision thing with holidays. We get a vision about we're going on a holiday and all that sort of thing. Do it with your personal life, and in particular with your business opportunities or with your laughter that keeps you going in challenging times. Number 8, have a plan. Have a plan. A plan is your thoughts on paper. Because guess what? When you think about stuff, and the doctor may agree with this, the thoughts start to go a little bit crazy from time to time. But if you can get them out and put them onto a piece of paper and share it with someone else and say, does this make sense? That then becomes a plan. Where does your plan come from? Opportunities. We have an ageing population at the moment. So with Laughter Yoga, we have opportunities with the ageing population. We have a sicker population at the moment. We're still recovering from COVID. We have mental health conditions going back to COVID. Commercial opportunities, aged care residential homes where I do a monthly gig, our social laughter clubs, all of these are opportunities. Just grab them all and write them down, and guess what the plan has to do? Work towards your vision. Smile. Breathe in. Think about all the opportunities and grab them. Now write them down, write them down. Have a plan. Point number 9, we're nearly there. Work hard and smart. Work hard and smart. You'll hear a lot of people say, oh, the money just fell from the sky and I became... No, that doesn't happen. Dr. K's been working 35 years now, you know, to get where we are. 25 years, I beg your pardon. 27 years. 13th of March 1995. I do know what I'm talking about. I just can't add up. So, you've got to work hard. You've got to work hard. Anyone thinks that you're going to be successful without working hard is not telling you the full truth. At my age, I like to work smart. I like to work smart. So this is working with my brain instead of my body. The study that we're doing with the elderly rice farmers in Malawi and Nepal is because they are aging, but they have to keep working. They have to keep working harder because of the impact that climate change has on their business, and the next generation is not coming up below them. I don't envy them whatsoever. All right, so you've got to work smart, but you've still got to do some hard work. All right, so everybody ready? Smile.
Smile.
Breathe in. Grab your shovel.
Oh.
And start working hard. Work hard and work smart. And the last one is get lucky. Get lucky. Sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. I was in the right place at the right time as a 12-year-old with what was happening with greyhound racing. In the military, I was in the right place at the right time because everybody needed a haircut, so I turned into a hairdresser. And the haircuts didn't have to be good. You put a plate on your head and just shave around. It wasn't a typical business, but it was really good because everyone needed a haircut every 2 weeks. So it's about being in the right place at the right time. And the right place at the right time is not in your office, sitting behind your computer. It's getting out there. It's getting out there. And don't get out there now. I want you to stay for the next couple of days. But as soon as you do go from this conference, I want you to get out there and meet people. So the research studies that I did right from the very first one with Professor Bob Cummins, it was with Dr. K, and we were on 60 Minutes in the Adelaide Hills. And the report came out on national TV. It was very supportive of us. It was in pursuit of happiness, and Professor Bob Cummins said, I was never happier than when I was with those crazy people in the hills. And I got in touch with Professor Bob Cummins and I said, apparently you're a professor of happiness at Deakin University, which was just down the road. I said, can I come down and talk to you about a research study? He said, sure, come on down. So I went on down and I got it. Then I was out doing my work, and then Professor Paul Bennett come along. He said, can you do this in dialysis? He wouldn't have found me in my office at home, but he found me out doing the work for Bob Cummins. Then, when COVID went online, so did I. And all of a sudden, I was out there internationally. It was awesome, and people were contacting me, but I was contacting them. I thought I can contact Professor Jerome Carson from Bolton University, Dr. Frieda Ganot-Szapinski, a health psychologist from Monaco. I can contact Dr. Nathan Cogden about his research studies, and I did, and they all come back and they said, what are you doing? And by the time I'd finished telling them, they said, you're on the team. Get out there. Meet people. Go where your clients are.
Oh,
Everyone stand. Smile.
Smile.
Breathe in. Put your hand up. Go and meet and laugh with at least 10 people. Go! Once I was inspired by the doctor's presentation on the gut the other day, I thought I'm going to meet this person. So I went straight up to him and shook his hand. And I said, "Nice to meet you." I said, "I loved your presentation." I wanted him to know who I was. Then I said, "Can I have a 1-minute video of you talking to the world about what you just talked about?" He said, "Of course." And then I said, "Have you got a business card?" And he said, "Of course, it's on my desk. You will be getting an email from me next week." I don't wait for people to try and find me in my office. I go out and I find them. And that's how you do it. They're just 10 ideas. No guarantee that any of them will work, but it did for me. With those ideas, you might like to take 1 or 2 of them on board and start doing them, or you might like to go through the list and go, what am I not doing that he's doing? Because I was a 12-year-old kid when I did this. I'm just an old man still doing it now. The last thing this old man is doing is embracing a thing called laughing. We did it last night at the dinner. This was a concept that Dr. Frieda Ganot-Shapinski came up with in conjunction with Professor Jerome Carson, and we wrote a book about, an academic book called The Positive Psychology of Laughter and Humour, which I'm very proud of. And the whole concept is 1 minute of laughter per day, and you record yourself laughing. Then you need to do it 3 more times throughout the day. So laugh for 1 minute, laugh for 1 minute, laugh for 1 minute, and laugh for 1 minute. And you laugh with your laughing, the laughter video that you've actually created. So this means we don't need a laughter club or telephones or anything. We can do it all by ourselves. We've been 2 years in creating the app, and the app is just around the corner. Once the app is created, it will be able to measure facial changes. The algorithm will be able to measure all of the muscles in the face to show changes in a positive way in the face. It's called physiognomy, and it's a real thing. It'll measure the sound of the laughter. We can get the sound waves. It will give us a visual of the laughter sound waves as well. I'm an electronics engineer from the military. What we did was watch sound waves to get the best sound waves, the best production out there. And it will measure body movement. Body movement is really, really important to get the whole body laughing. And from that app, doctors in the National Health Service in the UK will be administering as social prescription laughter to laughter coaches throughout the world. I'd like to think I'll be able to take all the referrals by myself, but I don't think I will. So I will need help and support from other people who are as passionate about laughter as I am. So I'm just going to finish with the laughy. For those of you who did it last night, I want you to do your laughy with a laughter buddy. So grab your mobile phone, open it up, turn on the camera feature, turn it on to video, and turn it so that it's facing yourself. Happens every time. At this stage, you may like to bring your hair. Doctors, bring your hair. And on the count of 3, you're going to record yourself laughing for 1 minute. 1, 2, 3, go. I just have one more thing that I need to do. I need to hop away. See ya.
Sing and dance, play and laugh. Feel the sound as we gather around. Let's embrace the joy so sweet. Laughter connects and life so sweet. Ho, ho, ha, ha, ha. Let it rise. Ho, ho, ha, ha, ha.